Hello, my name is Emma. I'm a counsellor and I've been asked to make a video for you about some of the things that we're seeing at the moment that are coming out of Ukraine. So this particular video is going to be split into sections and I've got some rough notes. So we're going to be looking at things like friends and family in Ukraine, if that's you. We're going to be looking at secondary trauma. We're going to be looking at how you can help if you've got friends or family that you're concerned about. We're going to be talking about ways of helping, like psychological first aid. And then we're going to move on to talking about people like me who don't have friends and family in this war, but who experience anxieties and concerns and sadness when I watch the news, when I hear and see people talking about it. So we're going to be looking at how people feel and manage those feelings and what we can do about it. So it is a little bit of a bitty video, but grab a pen and some paper, be ready to press pause because there may just be a little nugget in here for you that can help somewhere along the line. So let's think about people with friends and family in Ukraine at the moment. And I'm trying to put myself in that position of how terrified and how desperate for news I would be if it was my family or my friends over there. I'm thinking that I'd feel probably very helpless, that the distance would feel massive, that I would be desperate to get in there somehow and get involved and help. I'm hungry for information, I want to help. I'm frightened. I feel like things that are precious to me are being attacked. I feel insecure. I could very quickly get in touch with that feeling, you know, like things that were precious to me were being threatened. And even just in a couple of minutes, my mouth's gone dry, and just trying to imagine myself in that situation feels horrendous. So first of all, my heart goes out to you if this sounds like something similar to that which you might have been experiencing the last couple of weeks. One thing that immediately comes to mind when I think about friends and family in Ukraine is something called secondary trauma. So secondary trauma is something of a stress response that you feel when you hear or see a reconstruction or verbalization of a traumatic incident. So say, for example, a friend or family member, you are lucky enough to get them on the phone or on an email and they're telling you about what's happened. It's that person's first-hand response that is then sent to you, which you kind of decode in your own way and fill in some blanks, and then you actually get a legitimate secondary trauma response. Now, I really want to keep coming back to this because, yes, you know, thankfully, a lot of us are not there and we're not in it. But there's still a massive part of this about nurturing you. And see, I do this all the time. I'm kind of bringing my hands together to be precious and careful with you at the minute, because secondary trauma is a real thing. And it might not show up for you at the minute, and it might be kind of a steady process, but when you're putting your heart and your soul into something and you're hearing trauma, it does actually affect you in this, like I say, this secondary trauma stress response. So it's going to be really important, especially if you've got friends and family to in Ukraine, to check in with how you feel. It might show as stress, it might show as nightmares, it might show as being more worried or more distracted by things or more withdrawn. If this sounds like something you want to look at, just pop it into your search engine, secondary trauma. I think one of the most terrible things about having a friend or a loved one or a family member in Ukraine would be that sense of helplessness. And sometimes I'm trying to think about far minor situations here where I've known somebody in my friend's circle or family's been struggling, and I've been itching to know how I can help. What can I do? What can I do? And sometimes I go way ahead of what somebody actually might need from me. And what I've realised is often the best way to soothe that feeling in yourself and to actually be useful is to directly ask the person, how can I help? what do you need from me? And that saves me from putting loads of energy into something that might be effectively useless at the other end. It focuses me, it gives me a direct focus, and it, more importantly, gives the person exactly what they need. You know, do they need email sending? Do they need gosh, I can't think. Do they need you to do some research and send them some information? Do they need you to contact other family members, or I don't know, but ask directly. And they might say, there's nothing you can do, but just answer my messages when I can get them through to you. And then, you know, and I feel emotional even saying that, because then you know you've done what you can, and that's all they need, is just you there to hold that virtual space, if you like. But it's definitely worth asking, how can I help? What do you need? If you've managed to get anyone on video or phone that is suffering as a result of this horrendous war, you might want to look at how you can help in ways of active listening skills. You can Google that again. You can spend an hour online. Brush up on active listening skills. What is it? Why is it helpful? I haven't got quite enough time on this video to go into it, but it's a way you can help in your own time, do your own research, and kind of build that awareness yourself. You know, even something as simple as saying on a video call, I can tell you're really struggling today. I do this with clients all the time. There's no magic trickery that you learn in helping people. It can be as simple as reflecting what you're observing. I can see this is really difficult for you. I can see you shaking, you're that upset. Something like that is a really good example of an active listening skill that says to the person, I can see what's happening, I'm with you, I'm listening, I'm holding this space for you for this period of time. Another thing that you may want to look up is a thing that I've noticed, particularly the last couple of years, psychological first aid. Now, this is now presenting in a number of courses online, and I found 2 that are free. Now, these do go back to COVID-19, which is when this kind of really got legs and started to run, this psychological first aid. But there's a lot of good stuff in here that will relate to various different trauma situations and moments of crisis like we've got at the moment. These crisis situations. One of the websites that I found that is really reputable and accessible is called Future Learn. I think it's futurelearn.com, but I've just got Future Learn written down. Now, they do 2 psychological first aid courses. The first one is psychological first aid with reference to COVID-19. The second one I found is funded by Public Health England, and it is specifically aimed at psychological first aid for children and young people, aged 25 and younger, I think. And that, although it will have mentions of COVID-19, that one to me seems more targeted at crisis and emergency situations. So, for example, you know, if you know you've got friends or family in the throes of travelling from Ukraine, maybe even to come and be with you wherever you are, this could be something that you could invest in preparing yourself in before these young people, these nieces or nephews or grandchildren, before they arrive. Do this psychological first aid training. It's very, very entry level, and it'll be really useful stuff. This to me seems to tick that box a little bit of helplessness and what can I do? How can I help in this situation? Because the very, very tragic, sad reality is we can't be there, we can't fix it, we can't have that immediacy of helping in a lot of ways, but there are other ways in which we can help. You know your situation and your circumstances, that might be something. So grab a pen, a bit of paper, look at Future Learn. There will be other online courses. I just typed in psychological first aid course free, something like that. So let's move on. I hope there's something in there. The other thing as well about, you know, I've noticed in the UK this week, the government have set up loads of different, what was the one they set up? It was about registering. This is probably more on a personal consulate's level, which I'll come on to now actually. personal concerns. You do not have friends and family involved in this conflict, but you find yourself watching the news, you find yourself affected, you are frightened, worried, unsure. All of these feelings are completely normal when we see horrific things on the television. And you remember when I was talking about friends and family, I brought in secondary trauma first of all. You can also get a proportion of that from the news and the things you're seeing on social media. I remember seeing last week a news story and some images were pixelated out and things like that. Now my mind knows what's happening there to a point, but it fills in the imagined spaces, and that is a trauma response. So while I want to be informed and while I want to help where I can, I've got to be quite careful about how much what I'm going to do is I'm going to boundary off my time with watching the news. So I like to get an update in the morning and an update in the evening, and then I don't have it on during the day. You know, I know people who might just have the telly on in the background all day. I can't do that because I feel too upset, and then I start to feel like I'm not really doing as okay myself. So that's a great thing with personal concerns, to check in with your boundaries, check in with that secondary trauma. Check in with how you're protecting your time whilst still allowing yourself in a way to be affected and to be open to help. If that's something you feel like you want to do, but not to be completely submerged in the grief that we're seeing on the television and the trauma of the things that are unfolding. It's really important to talk about feelings, whether you talk about it to yourself. I've got a journal, it's not on my desk, but I write all sorts of feelings in there. You know, talk about feelings to yourself in your journal, to people on Facebook, to friends and family in the flesh if you're meeting up with people. Because if you can't identify how you feel, it almost is a break in the, like a foot brake in the car, in the process of processing and sitting with and evolving through these feelings. Our first job is really to identify. And I think actually saying, I don't know how I feel, is just as valid as saying I feel angry or I feel whatever. You know, not knowing how you feel to me might come under a numbness or a fear or an uncertainty. One thing that's great if you want to do some work with feelings is, and I give these to clients all the time, print out a load of feeling words, emotional words. And sometimes if I don't know how I feel, I'll kind of scan down the list and think, oh my God, yeah, I'm jealous today, I'm raging or whatever. So get access to feelings, even if it's just in words. Sit with how you might feel. Talk about how you might feel. You know, I'm thinking of a typical conversation in my family this week. Isn't it terrible what's happening on the news in Ukraine? And then it'll be a few other comments. But actually, really rarely does someone say, I feel really sad about it. I feel really helpless. Yes, it's terrible what's happening and it makes me feel. You know, there's this old mental sketch about counsellors and how does that make you feel? You know, the reason we ask is because feelings are the route to processing and not making sense of things as such, but making sense of how you feel. And when you make sense of how you feel and you can move through it, it stops causing as much emotional pain often, is what I find. So it's really important to get in touch with how you feel. Again, from a personal point of view, we're talking about something that seems far away, but then in a way doesn't seem far away. I know people on my Facebook, for example, who've got friends and family over there. So that's kind of in my very extended circle. So it's not really that far away. And I think one of the ways to get involved is to look at local initiatives. I know tons of local initiatives that are going on. People are selling bows for doors and the money is going to help different causes in Ukraine. One of the local chemists was asking for very specific items that were in need, which you can go and drop off. And that personally for me, small initiatives like that just make me feel like my caring is going somewhere. It's a drop in the ocean, I know that, but I have to be doing something. And if that feels like you, local initiatives are a really great way to get involved and to not have your blinkers on. If that's how you feel, you know, I need to do something, that is a great way to do it. Another thing, which I hope doesn't sound daft, is the power of prayer. And, you know, I'm just using Christianity as one example of this, but any faith, any religion, that intention setting, that prayer, that kind of just, I guess it's asking for, you know, asking for peace, asking for people to be kept safe, but also it's a process of giving away your concerns and your worries. So, for example, if you do pray to a God or to somebody else, you're telling them how you feel, you're sending off those feelings, and you're asking for help and support. And that's a really personal, private way of doing it. You could do this through journaling and get equally as good and robust results, but you're moving on the feelings and the emotions, and hopefully it's bringing you some sense of relief. Do it in person, do it in your journal, do it through prayer if that floats your boat, if that's how you feel and you really feel like you get some comfort from that. This is a time to come together and really, really support each other, to sit with how we're feeling, to put it into words, and to do something proactive. There's lots of different ways you can be proactive with this, and you might have heard something today that you think, yeah, I could do that. That could be me. I'm going to look at psychological first aid, or I'm going to put my name on the UK register. I think, God, the last time I heard there was 100,000 people had signed up, which is absolutely incredible, to give a home to Ukrainian people, these displaced people who might need somewhere to live in the UK. Find something that works for you to bring relief in that sense of being helpless. But know that however you feel at the moment, it's going to be completely normal. You are not alone, and you can talk about this with people at a deeper level by using feeling words, by not brushing over the conversations. And also, it's equally as important to, if you can, box off your time. Make sure you are still doing things for you. Make sure that this doesn't dominate you to the point of affecting your mental well-being, because you never know, you might be that person who really needs to offer robust support to somebody directly involved with this in the very near future. I hope this has brought something that was helpful to you. Please go back and listen again, take some notes. And I know I'm praying a lot for peace and for love and compassion. And I think one of the things that's really lifted me up out of this is seeing how many people are offering help, how people are coming together. And I think in any type of crisis, I remember from COVID-19, I took a lot of comfort from that as well. You know, that the everyday heroes, the way people came together, showed a lot of love. And I think it's really, really uplifting and important to come back to that, if we can, to underpin what's going on at the moment. Take care for now. I'll be thinking about you. Thanks for watching. Bye.